Johnny Herbert has broken his silence and delivered a massive bombshell message to Mercedes over George Russell's recent dip in performance. According to Herbert, Mercedes' growing preference for Kimi Antonelli is putting even more pressure on Russell, especially as the young Italian continues to deliver stronger performances. And with Mercedes reportedly keeping an eye on Max Verstappen, the pressure on Russell is only getting bigger. The uncertainty over his future, combined with the threat of losing his seat, could be weighing heavily on the British driver, and Herbert believes this pressure may be starting to show on the track. So what exactly did Herbert say? How bad is the gap to Antonelli really? And what does the Verstappen rumor mean for Russell's long-term future at Mercedes? Stick around, because we're breaking down all of it in this video. Let's rewind for a second. When 2026 kicked off, George Russell wasn't just another driver on the grid. He walked into the season as the man many expected to finally step out of the shadows and fight for the championship. After years of being patient, of doing the steady professional job while others grabbed the headlines, this was supposed to be his moment. 11 races later, that story has taken a very different turn. Instead of leading the charge, Russell finds himself 69 points behind a gap that's roughly the equivalent of losing out on almost 3 race wins. And the driver responsible for that gap isn't some rival team's superstar. It's his own teammate, 19-year-old Kimi Antonelli. That's the part that stings the most. This isn't Russell losing ground to Verstappen or Norris out on track. This is a teammate battle, inside the same garage with the same car, and right now Russell is losing it. And that's what makes this situation so uncomfortable for Mercedes as a team. When a driver loses ground to a rival on another team, it's easy to explain away different cars, different philosophies, different resources. But when the gap opens up against your own teammate in identical machinery, there's nowhere to hide. Every data comparison, every qualifying session, every strategy call gets scrutinized side by side. There's no external excuse left to lean on. This is exactly where former fire steward Johnny Herbert stepped in with some brutally honest words. Speaking out recently, Herbert didn't hold back when describing just how one-sided this teammate battle has become. He explained that Antonelli's consistency is clearly getting to Russell, pointing out that almost every time the two get in the car, it's Antonelli coming out on top. Herbert did acknowledge that luck hasn't always been on Russell's side this year. What makes Herbert's comments even more pointed is the personal angle he added. He admitted that he, like so many others in the paddock, genuinely believed 2026 was going to be Russell's breakout year. Instead, it's turned into a season where his own teammate is outshining him race after race. And that kind of pressure doesn't just disappear when the summer break ends. But Herbert didn't stop at Antonelli. He went further, touching on a subject that's been quietly circling the paddock for months: the rumors linking Max Verstappen to a future move to Mercedes. Now, to be clear, nothing is confirmed. There's no signed contract, no official announcement. But rumors like this don't need to be true to have an effect, they just need to exist. And according to Herbert, that's exactly the problem. He believes the constant chatter around Verstappen potentially joining Mercedes down the line is doing real damage to Russell's mindset. Think about it from Russell's perspective. You're already fighting to stay ahead of a rookie teammate who's outperforming you. At the same time, you know that somewhere in the background, the most dominant driver of this era might be circling your seat. That's not just sporting pressure, that's the kind of psychological weight that can follow a driver from the paddock straight onto the track. Herbert summed it up simply: Russell will be fully aware that his seat is under threat, and when a driver starts racing with that thought in the back of his mind, it rarely helps performance. So here's the real question: is this pressure actually affecting Russell's driving? Herbert clearly thinks so. His comments suggest that the mental side of this situation is just as important as the raw pace difference between Russell and Antonelli. It's worth remembering that Russell isn't a driver who lacks quality. He's a race winner, a proven performer, someone who's been backed by Mercedes as a long-term project. But Formula One has shown time and again that even the most talented drivers can be knocked off their rhythm when uncertainty creeps in. A rookie teammate performing above expectations is one kind of pressure. The possibility of a 4-time world champion parking himself in your seat is an entirely different level of pressure. Combine both of those, and you start to understand why Herbert felt the need to speak out the way he did. This isn't just paddock gossip, it's a genuine warning shot about where Russell's Mercedes career could be heading if things don't turn around in the second half of the season. There's also a broader context worth mentioning here. Mercedes as a team has never been shy about making bold driver decisions when performance dictates it. History backs that up. So when a respected figure like Herbert starts talking openly about seat security, it's not coming from nowhere. It reflects a wider feeling in the paddock that Mercedes will always prioritize results over reputation, no matter how promising a driver once looked on paper. Now, while all of this pressure has been building around his career, Russell has had something far more positive going on in his personal life. During the summer break, he confirmed his engagement to his longtime partner Carmen Montt. Russell shared the news himself on social media, posting a set of photos with Montt, including one showing off her engagement ring. It didn't take long for the Formula One world to react, with Mercedes and several fellow drivers sending their congratulations. For those who don't know the backstory, Russell and Montt's relationship goes back to 2020, when they first met through a mutual friend in London. Since then, Montt has become a familiar face at Grand Prix weekends, regularly supporting Russell from the paddock. The couple has built a life together away from the track as well, now based in Monaco. Montt herself has a background in finance and business management, having previously worked in investment relations. It's a nice reminder that even in the middle of one of the toughest seasons of his career, Russell still has a strong support system and some real happiness away from the chaos of Formula One. So where does this leave George Russell heading into the second half of 2026? On one hand, he's got personal happiness and stability with his upcoming marriage to Carmen. On the other hand, professionally, the walls seem to be closing in. A teammate who keeps beating him, persistent rumors about Verstappen, and now a public warning from a respected voice like Johnny Herbert. The next several races are going to be critical. If Russell can find some consistency and start closing that gap to Antonelli, a lot of this talk fades into the background. But if the struggles continue, don't be surprised if the Verstappen rumors only grow louder, and if Herbert's warning starts to look less like an opinion and more like a preview of what's coming. So that's the full picture. Johnny Herbert's warning to Mercedes, the growing gap between Russell and Antonelli, the ever-present Verstappen rumors, and Russell's big personal news away from the track. It's a season of contrasts for the Brit. Real joy in his personal life, but real uncertainty in his professional one. What do you think? Is George Russell's seat genuinely under threat? Or is this just paddock noise? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, hit that like button if you enjoyed this breakdown, and subscribe for more Formula One news and analysis. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.